Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Ray. So I wanted to talk about my path to healing stress and to talk about spirituality. It's not something I often talk about, which is strange because my first YouTube channel, which I started last year, was about my spiritual path of awakening. And it was very much caused by stress that happened 10, 15 years ago, where I suddenly found myself utterly lost, at a loss, broken. And I didn't realize it back then, but this was the beginning of my own path of awakening. A return to a sense of self that is rooted in something much deeper than I'd ever been aware of. Although I say that, if I feel back to when I was a kid, I was already very connected. I had a sense of things, I could feel things, I could see things, which was both uncomfortable, I think, for the people around me, but also for myself. And for many reasons, I shut down. I suppressed through stress, which is something I talk about a lot. I shut down that essential part of me, not only my authentic expression, which is what you get back from healing stress and reconnecting, but I shut down my gifts, my natural gifts of empathy, as a healer, as an intuitive, as a psychic, all the gifts that we consider perhaps to be mystical, spiritual. These are things that I've reconnected with as I've healed stress. And I started this channel, The Alchemy of Stress. I'm going to post it on my old channel as well. I haven't posted there for a while, so hello. Sorry I haven't been around. But I felt called to start this channel, The Alchemy of Stress, and to share what I'd learned about healing the stress that disconnects. And I haven't spoken so much about stress and healing stress being a path back to your essential self, to being a spiritual path. I think it's because I didn't want to alienate people, or perhaps I was scared as well. I don't know, probably a bit of both. But I didn't want to alienate people, that was certain, because I wanted to share what I'd learned about healing stress to as many people as possible. But I'll let that go and I'll let you decide if this resonates, because I think it's important to share. It's essential to share, because I think so many people are waking up, are remembering, and perhaps like me, when this happened to me 10, 15 years ago, it was incredibly confusing and distressing, and for some people, it might be a simple awakening and a remembering, and everything falls back into place. I don't know many people like that. I think for many, it's confusing and frightening and disorienting, because everything that you once knew and have learnt about life starts to fall apart. And stress for me was at the heart of it. Stress for me, I realized with time, was not only the thing that had caused that separation from self, and I'm not talking about the ego self and identity, but that essential part, my true nature, and everything that gets suppressed in stress and forgotten. And it happens often at an early age. So it can really be something that we've never really experienced, the truth of who you are. And again, perhaps this resonates. Perhaps you're going through an awakening. Perhaps you don't call it by that name yet. And again, we're each having a very unique experience, and I'm very respectful of that. But the stress that we experience in separation, in feeling disconnected, in not being able to express that very essential part of who we are, it causes so much stress. And I can see now how my body and what I was feeling, the distress I was feeling in different ways and the symptoms, was a call back, a calling back. Please reconnect. Please remember that you are here, here, yeah? And realizing how disconnected I'd become from myself, from my body, dissociated, not wanting to be in this place that I understand now to be home in who I am, and understanding the connection to everything, not just the connection I talk about in healing stress. Everything's connected, the mind, the emotions, the physical, in terms of our health and our wholeness, but in terms of consciousness. And as we go through this awakening, and as we go through the healing process, which is what I share on this channel, and the Alchemy of Stress, and in the 6-week Alchemy of Stress, as we consciously reconnect and bring our attention back within, we start to remember, and we start to awaken parts of ourselves that have been suppressed and forgotten, rejected, abandoned, judged. And all the heaviness, that density, energetically, emotionally, that we've either been carrying that was never ours to carry, or that we've held on to in that contraction that stress causes, and in that disconnect, we've held on to pain and hurt and, resentment and anger and fear, and so much fear. And it's no surprise that we feel so anxious, so fearful, because we've lost connection to the essence of who we are, to who each of us is, to that anchor, that inner guidance, that North Star that is connected to everything. But it's no wonder that we can feel lost. No wonder we can feel empty, like there's something missing, because we have become progressively more and more disconnected, separated from the essential nature of who we are and the nature of everything. And so healing stress and the spiritual path are intimately connected for me. And it seems wrong not to talk about it in terms of what I'm sharing on this channel, the Alchemy of Stress, and how it became a very powerful path to remembering who I am, and to remembering that everything that I need and am looking for in terms of the healing journey is found in here, in this connection, in presence. And understanding that all the discomfort and the pain and everything that was part of that old story that I've been carrying without awareness, in that state of disconnect, was actually guiding me back home. This is how stress is the pathway back to self, to core self, and to understanding your nature, the truth of who you are, your authentic expression. And I'll do a separate post on this, I think. So if you're enjoying this, if this resonates, if this speaks to you, you can click the bell, subscribe, because I'm going to do a second post that talks about alchemy. Because alchemy isn't just this word I use in my YouTube, titles, channel names. It's something that is real. It is something that happens in presence, in consciousness. It is a transformation of all that heaviness, of all that density, of all that stress in different forms that we carry physically, mentally, emotionally, that keeps on getting recreated in that loop of limitation, reactivity. As we bring consciousness to our experience and we awaken those parts that we've forgotten and suppressed and rejected and judged and criticized and shamed, as we bring consciousness to these denser experiences, emotions, frequencies that we've held on to and have been carrying, there is a transformation that happens. That's the alchemy. And it's a very natural but magical process. And it's at the same time coming into wholeness, a healing, a health, and we can start to feel that in our experience mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But it's also, I've lost my place. What am I saying? Yeah, it's a transformation, it's a healing, going back into wholeness. There's something else as well. I can't remember what I was going to say. I do lose my track sometimes. But it's a magical process and it's real. And I'll talk about that more in the next post. But it's our ability to engage in our inner world and see how everything's connected, to know how to heal, to self-heal, to support the body in doing what it knows best, to come back into balance, to find homeostasis. But as we do that, as we're connecting in that way, we are starting to access so much information, understanding how out of alignment, how disconnected from our true nature we've been, how we've been living in the stories, whether they're from the past or just the ones that the mind is keeping us in, recreating, in a very limited sense of self. And as we're bringing consciousness to and being present with all of this, we're starting to see things clearly. We're starting to see things from a state of presence, a more empowered state, an understanding that we have a lot more choice than we've realized, that we can use this to heal, we can use this to create an experience, a life, but we're doing this connected to the truth of who each of us is. We're coming back to that connection to something much bigger than just our human limited experience. We're understanding, again, that connection with everything, that there is no separation. And that's something that each of us has to experience firsthand, very personally. And as I said, it can be quite an uncomfortable journey at times. And as you awaken, there can be a lot of stress. It can feel very disorienting. It can feel very confusing. But it isn't everything, it isn't something going wrong. It is the beginning of coming back to the truth of who you are. And part of that process is letting go, is learning to engage differently, engage consciously, to make choices. And there's a lot of things that happen in this space. My own experiences, that has been a balancing, not just in terms of health, but in terms of the masculine and the feminine, these energies, these frequencies, about bringing more compassion, more kindness, more forgiveness, but a lot of courage along the way in order to balance out what it is to be human, but from a very conscious state, a spiritual understanding of what it is to be alive, to be awake to yourself, to the true nature of things. So maybe this resonates, and I think, I really wanted to talk about this because I've kind of artificially separated that for long enough. And I'll put the link to my other channel, which is called Love, Light and Alchemy, where I talk about my spiritual awakening. And I'll continue to post here, share my story of how I healed stress, but the story is not complete without talking about spirituality and how I've remembered my true nature and the connection between everything. So yeah, perhaps that resonates. I think a lot of people are experiencing this at this time, and what I've felt that this has been an incredible anchor, because again, that reconnection is bringing you back to the truth of who you are, that anchor, that connection, your intuition, your inner guidance. And we could all do with that right now. There is a lot of chaos in the world. And so to have that anchor in these times is really important. Okay. So as always, thank you for being here. Let me know if this resonates in the comments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next post.